So I'm going to talk
This
about my uncomfortable couch first that I'm sitting on.
how uncomfortable is your couch?
Very uncomfortable
Well, then why is that?
because it's leather and I always wanted a leather one.
And now you got it, you don't like it.
And now I don't like it. But it looks good, so I got to keep it.
That's like a typical old church lady response. Looks good, so I got to keep it. All right. I grew up just like any other kid in Newport, Newfoundland, around, on, and sometimes even in the water. I grew up wanting to be a sailor, just like my father. I eventually sailed on ships all over the world for 20 years. Then I met this guy, Greg Wells. He bought a 100-year-old church in my hometown, along with a great team of people. There's some very special things happening there. My name is Ryan Gates. This is my hometown of Winterton, Newfoundland. This is Downey's Bank, Silly Cove Records podcast. All right, hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 6, another episode of the Downey's Bank podcast. Today, I'm joined with Chair of Trinity Hall Incorporated, Ms. Rhoda Hedd. Welcome to the show, Rhoda.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you very much.
So, I had always planned on having you on for an episode, and sooner than later. But out of the gate, of course, we wanted to really give people a little glimpse inside Silly Cove Records and the artists and stuff, and Greg and his view for the whole thing, and help him get a bit more word out about what this was all about. But it was real important to me to get you on soon, and sooner rather than later, to talk about the involvement of the community and our group. And when I say our group, I mean our board, because I'm also a member of the board for Trinity Hall Incorporated. And what that means for the community. But, like I said, we had to get talking to Greg and talk about Silly Cove Records and make sure there was a clear picture out in the world of what this was all about. And I couldn't think of a better time to get you on than today. The dust has finally settled. We're a week past what was probably the craziest weekend I've had in Winterton maybe ever when it comes to busyness and excitement around the town. We had our grand opening last Friday. Last Friday? Yes, it was.
Yes, last Friday. You're right.
So Friday, which rolled into a concert that night. It was 7 hours of music, led into a concert that night, which was Courtney Wick's album release show. And so that was another hour of music late in the evening for a sold-out crowd. That rolled into Saturday for a second sold-out show in the afternoon for Courtney and her album release, which rolled right on into a master class with Greg Wells about record making, where we had 100 participants come out from all over the island, artists, musicians, record producers, audio engineers, you name it, showed up literally by the busload to Trinity Hall to take in a class from Greg, who does the same class every other year in France for a lot more money than anybody paid for it in Newfoundland. So a real treat for everybody. But that's enough from me on that. I want to know what your big takeaway was. I mean, we'll talk about the grand opening and all that stuff in more detail as we go here. But what was your big takeaway? What was when you think about the grand opening? What's the first thing that comes to your mind?
The grand opening of Trinity Hall was such a highlight in my life. And I think the most important thing that I saw through that, or what I came out of it, was when we opened that door to the public for the very first time as open. We were walking down through the main hall of the building, and Greg looked at us and said, "Let's go do it." And I said, "Do what?" He said, "Let's go open that door." We walked down, 4 of us, was Greg, Steve Crocker, and myself, and got out to the porch, and he opened the door. And when he opened the door, there was a lineup of people wanting to get into the building because it was open. And as they walked in that door, walked through the porch, and walked up to the sanctuary and found a seat, there was a smile on everybody's face. Mm. But I think the biggest smile of all, and I couldn't see it, was on mine, because I was so happy to have that door open again. It was closed for several years. When the church closed, we didn't know really what the future would hold for that building. But when we opened that door on the 19th of May, I thought, well, it's done. All of our weeks and months of planning for that magic day has come. And we welcome everybody in that day. And from 12 o'clock right up until probably 7:30, it was just a nice flow of visitors, of guests, of performers, musicians of all different kinds, walking through there and just enjoying every minute that they were there. And it seemed like they were enjoying it because you could almost see it. You could feel the vibes, the good vibes from every person they spoke to.
I couldn't agree with you more in that sense, because that's one of my main takeaways too, is that aside from the fact that we had amazing food, we had amazing musicians, there was a warm feeling. And when I say warm feeling, I don't mean actually temperature warm, even though there was finally, for the first time in God knows how long it's been since there was actual heat in that building. But there was a real warm vibe about the people and about the day and the situation. I mean, we had rain for 4 or 5 days leading up to the event. We had rain started the minute Greg got on the plane and headed back for LA. But for that weekend, the sun was splitting the rocks all weekend. It was a beautiful, beautiful weekend, and people were in such good spirits. I don't think any of it was by accident, by the way. I'm a firm believer in all that good stuff. But yeah, it was a real special day for a lot of people, young and old too, because there was young people who passed through that building. Because we always focus on the elders of the church and the people who were in their 70s, 80s, and 90s coming in, who had, grew up in the church, and that's all well and good. But there was also young people who came to that church who was never in there before. So had this project not started, those young people would have never seen it, never experienced it, never known anything about it. So we always tend to focus on the past generation and on honoring what they put in front of us, but it's really important to realize, to me, the next generation. I mean, I guess that's where I got small kids. I mean, you got grandkids of your own now as well.
I do.
And putting something in place for those people to look back on, not just a legacy from their dad or for their grandma or whatever things that they helped build, but something that they can kind of grab onto in their own way when time comes. Maybe not at Trinity Hall, but in a similar regard. So that's what was important to me about the whole project was that tying of generations together. And you're right, it was all smiles all day. And you are correct. Yours was about the biggest. I could have.
I couldn't help it, Ryan. I just couldn't help it.
I could have drove a basketball down your throat from across the room, no trouble. No, it's a big old smile.
It just came automatically.
Yeah.
And as I looked around that sanctuary that day, I could see people just looking up around. And I don't know if people ever noticed it before, like years ago when that building was a church and you went there to worship, because your focus was more on different things. Your focus probably was on the choir or on the priest or whoever was there. But now I could see people looking up around those big white arches and all the beautiful architecture that's there. Those stained glass windows, that pipe organ cabinet that just embraces the top of that stage. And people were just in awe and saying, wow, this is just a wow. And the people I spoke to just said basically the same thing over and over. It's so nice to be in here again. It's so nice to see this building beautified because, Ryan, as you know, that building itself right now is in probably the best shape that it's ever been in a long, long time.
I'd go as far as to say as ever. I can't imagine.
Maybe ever, yes.
There are some things, of course, like any old building that'll need to be addressed, but it's more or less more general upkeep than it is full-on repair work. Like obviously it's going to need some shingles in coming years and and there's going to be some obviously issues with floors and stuff that need to be adjusted and this and that, but nothing that can't be done, and certainly nothing that won't be done. So yeah, if you look right back to when that building was put there in 1904, you're kind of back to there again, because
exactly. Remember when the contractor was just trying to get the stage ready for us and he had to lift up so many platforms, you and I took one up one day, the very first one that the altar was on, right? And we went down to another one and another one. But when they saw the woodwork and the beams and the structure underneath that stage and underneath the main sanctuary, they were thinking, wow, this is strong. And I remember when we got the upright piano delivered there, it was very, very heavy. And when the men lifted it up steps on stage, the boards cracked. And I thought, oh, I held my breath. And one of them spoke up and said, hey, don't worry. There's a lot of strong structure underneath this. That is a board crack, yes, but it's just the top storage because there's several underneath there.
Yeah.
And you wheeled it over to the side, and I talked to 2 or 3 people that day about that concern that I had, and they all said, look, that piano will not go down through that floor.
Not a chance.
So I felt better because I had a fear. I would go over there checking on it, and the piano would be down somewhere underneath that stage. But it didn't happen.
No, having gone up under the building myself multiple times, there's so much lumber there. And I mean, the thing is, this lumber has been there for over 100 years, 125 years old. It's been sitting there with wind blowing past it, drying out. So of course it's going to crack when people walk on it, when you wheel a 800-pound piano across it. Of course it's going to, you're going to hear cracks and groans with releasing the tension in the wood and everything else. But there's nobody going down through that stage. Not a chance. So,
I know now.
but I can understand your fear at the same time. Even more so when we delivered a grand piano to Trinity Hall.
That's right.
And had that put up there, which is arguably twice as heavy as the upright. So,
definitely.
But here we are, again, a week later. We guesstimated based on, tracking on our system, which we had a digital system for tracking people in and out to make sure we didn't go over our fire capacity. We estimated somewhere in the vicinity of 500 to 600 people. And that was a very rough guess, could have easily been more. Because of how we didn't have to track them on the way out when we closed the building, because there was no need to. Everyone just left. But long story short, we seen at least 500 people, and like you said, there was no time really. There was always a lineup, but there was no time when there was more than 10 or 20 people out by the door, and that moved really quickly. As one person would show up, somebody else would be let in, and someone else would leave and go home. And that being said, there was a few people who stayed for 7 hours. God love them, because they just couldn't bear to leave.
I did talk with some people like that, and they said, I just couldn't leave. I'm sorry, but I just couldn't leave.
No, and I think that's fair. I think we need to touch on, though, for anybody who doesn't know you and doesn't know Winterton, because we do have a lot of people who watch this podcast, oddly enough. The amount of people who I met actually at the grand opening who came along, shook my hand, said, Ryan, I'm really enjoying the podcast. When are you doing another one? It's like, it was, I'd say 20 people at least. So to me, who when I started this wasn't expecting anybody to watch it except maybe me, you, Greg, Courtney, I mean, I wasn't expecting a big crowd. For people to be enjoying it and enjoying the storytelling and the inside scoop, it's real special to me. So, all that to one side about the podcast, I think it's really important that the people who aren't from Winterton or who don't know me or you that well, I think it's really important for you to touch on your history with the building, because if you don't know, you don't know. So touch on it from childhood up.
Okay. I was born and raised in Winterton. I'm a member of the Pinhorn clan. Now, the Pinhorn clan has been in Winterton almost forever, I suppose, and they've been more or less in one spot here in the town, over on what we call Pinhorn's Beach. So that's where I grew up. And of course, most of the Pinhorn clan were of the Anglican faith. And so naturally, I went to St. Luke's Anglican Church all my life. Brought there to be christened, confirmed, married there. And over the years, after a while, when I became an adult and on my own, more or less, I joined the vestry, I joined ACW, I joined everything that had to do with that church. I was involved. Even to the GFS used to be years ago, and different things like that. Whatever was going on over there, a fundraiser, a special event, a celebration of any kind, I was there. However, over the years, of course, attendance at churches, not only St. Luke's, but in general, more or less got low, and we would fundraise just to keep our door open. So eventually, of course, it closed. And I was so deflated. I don't know if I've ever felt that same way about anything other than that actually felt deflated. The last day that we closed the door, locked it, not knowing when it would open again, or to what, or to where, or when, or how it would go. That building was so beautiful, and we always considered it a special place because it was so historic. It was a historic building for this whole town. However, a couple of years went by, and we said it was sold. Someone said the church is sold. Who got the church bought? I thought. And someone said, oh, it's a musician from the States somewhere. And that's all I knew. And I didn't really look into it very much. But at the time, I just wondered, oh, what's going to become of that building now? Whoever it is, what are they going to do with it? Anyway, I just looked around and just asked questions here and there. I found out he was a musician. He wanted to turn it into an arts center, a music center, recording, or whatever, and all those details came around. And I thought to myself, oh, that sounds pretty good if that's going to be true, if that's reality, and this is actually going to happen. And then I got involved, and I said, well, if I can do anything at all to see this come true, I will do it. Mm-hmm. And when I got involved in it, I made that promise to him that, look, I will do whatever I can to see your vision come through for Trinity Hall. Yep. And I have not looked back to say, oh, I'm doubtful. No, there was no doubt in my mind that this will happen.
No, I agree.
And now that door is open, I cannot see it going any further than up.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's get back to the grand opening. So we got your history. We got the Cole's Notes version. I mean, incredibly Cole's Notes version of the history, your history in and around the church. But the grand opening. So we come up with this idea of just a free for all of a day, and it kind of came out of nowhere. We didn't really put a lot of thought into how it was going to be. We tossed some ideas around. Greg said, well, this is what I think would be cool. And we said, okay. Like that conversation lasted, I don't know, maybe 5-10 minutes. It was nothing. And it was done. He was like, this is what I think would be cool. I said, well, we could do it like this and this and this. And everyone said, we can add this, add this, add that. And it was done. Now, the actual pulling all that together took months and months. But we ended up with a 7-hour music show, which I still haven't counted up the acts that we had. I think it was close to 15 different performers on stage in duos or singles. But we had food provided at no cost from a local restaurant in town, Silly Cove Foodery and Public House, which is becoming a fan favorite, I think, across the island. People who are visiting are raving about the restaurant.
There.
And then, of course, there was a few nice moments tucked in there as well. Like we had there was a nice little cake cutting, and then the cake was served out through whoever was in the building at the time. There was a ribbon cutting ceremony with a couple of very basic speeches about the project and whatnot. And there was a very nice presentation from the town of Winterton, which was, again, a surprise to me. I didn't know it was happening. A nice plaque sent to Silly Cove Records in congratulations of the opening of Trinity Hall. So they were able to recognize both parties, because while on paper we're separated, one doesn't work without the other. Silly Cove Records can't work without Trinity Hall. Trinity Hall
You're right.
never make it without Silly Cove Records. So we are one team, but because of how logistically things need to operate, it need to be two separate things. And it was really nice to see the town recognize that as well and include both on the plaque for Greg. I know he really appreciated the gesture. So we pull all this together, and basically we had no problems. We put contingencies in place for just about 8. We talked about it and talked about it and talked about it and talked about it at length of all the things that could possibly go wrong. I mean, like, we were dreaming up stuff that, like, people who are organizing concerts in New York City don't even think about, and trying to figure out the best ways of doing things. And you know what? I haven't heard one complaint from anybody about anything the entire day. The food was delicious. The weather was beautiful. The shuttle bus was really convenient, so they could park wherever they wanted in town and get dropped off at the hall. The music, the entertainment was just world class. We made it through the first 4 hours of the grand opening before anybody went on stage who wasn't a local person. So it speaks to the talent that's in and around. Yeah, and when I say local, I mean local to like Winterton, Hants Harbor area, 5 minutes from the church. So that again speaks to the talent level and how steeped in music and the arts we truly are. And even then, we didn't have everybody in the community who could sing and play. So nothing, absolutely nothing went wrong. But I got to get to the major question. The question that everybody wants to know is, what's your favorite thing to eat at the Silly Cove Foodery and Public House?
You shouldn't have to ask that, Ryan. I tell you, those cod bites are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Unbelievable. I cannot resist them. I went into the annex on that particular day, and I thought, I'm not going to go have something to eat because, I know we ordered quite a lot of food, but you never know. So towards the end of it, I went in and I saw there was a nice supply there because apparently the caterers had to go and top up the pans, and that wasn't a surprise because the food was so good. So I said to them, I got to eat. What have you had to eat today? I said, really? Not much. So they topped up a plate of cod bites because they knew what I wanted. Yeah. And wow, it's a wow for me.
Yeah.
Yep. The second one I think that would be my favorite would be the Silly Cove burger.
Well, that's going to make for a real boring podcast because that's my two favorites as well. I would like to elaborate a little bit, but I can't resist cod bites. I can't.
No, I can't either.
It's one of those things that like they're too good. I grew up when I went to St. John's as a student. You eat a lot of fast food because back then it was half cheap too. You know, we're talking 20 years ago. You could get a decent meal for $5. I ate a lot of Chess's fish and chips. I ate a lot of Big R fish and chips. Fish and chips is my thing. Loves it. Nothing I've ever had compares to the cod bites at Silly Cove Foodery and Public House when it comes to fish and chips. It is by far the best, which really sucks for me because they're so good that every time I go there, I feel like I got to have them, and then I don't get to have anything else.
I'm the same way.
But my next favorite, of course, you mentioned the burger. I had to throw out the nachos too. Their chicken nachos are to die for. They do them the way nachos are meant to be done, layered. So there's layered. They don't just throw the chips on the plate and then throw some cheese onto it and hope, so when you after you eat the top layer, you're left with just a plate of chips. No. There's cheese and toppings all down for that stuff, and it is fantastic. But yeah, so I mean, they catered the event. They had. You guys went and had a meeting with the guys and at the restaurant, the owners, Gregory, Karina, Mandy, and you guys came up with a nice strategy for finger foods. Pub grub at a slightly higher level than what you would normally expect. Yes. We ended up with cod bites, chicken tenders, onion rings, and a really cool idea I thought was really neat was this flatbread pizza that they brought out.
Yes.
Which was a huge hit too, because
that was a last minute thing, by the way. That was a last minute idea. We wanted 4 different ones, and we didn't know which ones to get. And then they suggested, well, how about the pita bread pizza? That seems to go over well. Oh yeah, we'll try it. We didn't know if people would go for it or what, but it was a big
went for
hit.
It.
Yeah,
they went for it. Actually, last going off there at around 8 o'clock that evening, me and Kelly Loader finished off the last slice.
I know, I was there.
She had half and I had half. So
he said, I haven't had much to eat today. Can you tell?
Kelly had half and I had half. So no, it was a great day. It was a great day all around.
It was.
So I guess all that to one side, where are we going to go from here? So I guess we'll call this the road ahead with Rhoda Hedd. Is that okay?
Of course, you can do that.
There you go. So the road ahead.
Do that because the road ahead is going ahead.
Yes. So I think we might as well. I mean, we'll touch on the things that are booked, which are confirmed. We just got news this week, and it's out there in the public eye there that Pete Thorne, major guitarist, has worked with Melissa Etheridge, Don Henley from the Eagles, most notably last going off with Chris Cornell before his passing. Major guitar act, 250,000 subscribers to his YouTube channel. He demos gear. He's just an absolute master musician. He's going to come to put off a masterclass likely 2 days, I think, is what they're talking about.
It's a
Details.
2-day thing. I think the first day starts around noon and goes on in the evening.
Yeah. So yeah, that's been announced and is out there. We've also got, that's in August. We've got Rachel Cousins, of course. Her show is coming up now on June the 24th, less than a month away. So if you haven't got your tickets, get your tickets. I checked the seating chart not long ago, and the seats are filling up. So that's great to see.
Yes, I did too. I checked.
Rachel's a real talented singer songwriter. I don't know what's better, her voice or her songwriting, but she's got a real silky smooth voice, but in her lower registry and her lower notes, her voice really soars for some reason. It's a quality that I haven't seen a lot in certainly in local musicians, but in musicians in general. Her tones are really interesting, and she's quite a I'll call it charismatic performer when it comes to relaying her message before and after her songs, to connecting with the crowd. So it's going to be a great show, and because for us, this is all about supporting local and supporting youth and all that good stuff. We've got a great opening act coming on for Rachel in Alyssa, Emma, and Hillary, 3 young girls from what we call Downey Shore, but they go to our local high school, which is in Old Perlican, of course. And they're over the moon excited to get their first real gig, per se, opening for an established artist here in Newfoundland. So all good stuff, all good vibes. And let me tell you, we all know Rachel can sing. These 3 girls, you're not going to want to miss that. These 3 young girls all have bright futures in whatever they want to do ahead of them. But if it's music, you can be sure that that's not the last time you're going to hear tell of these young ladies. So getting out and seeing them and supporting them in their efforts, I think, is just as important as anything else that we're trying to accomplish at Trinity Hall.
Definitely. It's so good to have the younger set come in and do that.
Oh my gosh.
Absolutely.
I'm so excited. I'm so excited because I'm so excited because they're excited. They've been messaging back and forth with me about their set that they're planning and the songs that they're doing. They sent me a voice clip yesterday of the 3 of them harmonizing together on a song that they're writing for this show.
Nice.
Just lovely young people. Again, young people whose parents have clearly done a really good job on them. They're very respectful, very well-spoken young ladies. And I'm really excited to see what they bring to the stage before Rachel. So we've got that. And there's going to be a litany of other things. So we have announced the choir. We've got a choir visiting from Ontario.
From Toronto. Yep. They are from Toronto, and they're the Islington United Church Senior Choir, under the direction of Mr. Jason Locke.
Yep.
In July 1st that year.
Yeah, so that's going to be a great little, I shouldn't say little, there's nothing little about it. They're a well-established a gospel choir here in Canada, and they're coming to do this show for Trinity Hall as a fundraiser to help make sure that we keep the lights on. Because I think what a message that needs to get out there is that while Mr. Wells made the capital investment to upgrade the building, because it's his building, it's up to us to keep the lights on. It's up to us to keep this. That's why the board exists, because Greg certainly doesn't have the time or capacity at this point with his job to be able to do hardly any of that, let alone all of it. So it's our job to figure out how to make Trinity Hall work and best benefit the town of Winterton, the Trinity Shore, and the province of Newfoundland and Labrador, and at the same time keep the lights on. So
exactly.
I'm not stressed yet, but
no, don't get stressed, Ryan.
No, I'm not going to get stressed yet.
Not yet.
But we gotta keep the ball rolling, right? And if we even get a portion of the support going forward that we had on opening day, I think we're going to be well situated. So that's a little bit of stuff on the road ahead, as they say. So
of course it is.
What about you now? I mean, we got to kind of clue this up. But what about the thank yous? You're the matriarch of Trinity Hall, the grand poobah, all things.
Oh, come on now, come on. That's enough about me.
No, but
that's enough about me.
You got to. Well, okay, fine. But you got to give out some thank yous, then, if that's the case.
Yes, and there are lots. There are lots of thank yous. I would be amiss to say that only for the people who supported us throughout this journey, it would not be possible. It would be so much harder on us to keep everything going. For the grand opening that day, we had so much support. The volunteers, they were just second to none. We had a little meeting with them a couple of nights before, didn't we, Ryan?
Yeah. So how many was there? Because you did the schedule.
I'm kind of thinking we had about 20, approximately 20. And we just outlined to them what we needed done. We had some tasks for them. We had some stations that they needed to be at certain times. And they just took their places. They came there that day and they looked at the chart. We had the chart just stuck on the wall in the annex. But they knew anyway, but it was just there, just as a reminder. They went to their stations. And I can remember a couple of them when their hour or so was up, their relief came to them and they would say, oh, that's okay. I'll stay another few minutes. I don't mind here. And that's the kind of attitude that we saw from all those volunteers.
And I really don't, I'm so glad we touched on that, because I don't think the general public realized how many people were involved in making that possible day of. Because these volunteers, most of them, other than if you stopped and looked at a name tag to see that they were a volunteer, blended in like
they certainly did.
You know, Bunny in the elder bed. But aside from the people who were again outside wearing the vests and directing traffic and directing parking and making sure things stayed clear and clean, you wouldn't have noticed them. And so you're talking about 20 volunteers on the floor at any given time. And then you're talking about the 7
and that's
board
including
members.
the outside. That's including outside and inside.
Outside and inside.
Right? Total,
and your 7 board members who are who, while we had hoped to take a day off and enjoy it ourselves, couldn't, because we're not wired that way. Exactly.
No,
I could have.
No.
We all could have, I guess. But we wanted to make sure it was as good as a success as possible, and it was. And when it was all said and done, I think we could all be really, really proud of everything that went on there. I know I am. I know we all are. It was.
Yes, we all are. And a huge, huge thank you, to all those people who took the time and the interest to come in through that door and just to sit back and enjoy the music, enjoy everything around them. They are to be thanked also, because without those people, those guests, we wouldn't have anybody there to listen.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And which leads me to the only other thank you that I had. I don't like naming people individually because I'm always afraid if you name somebody, you'll forget somebody. But this one has to go all by itself, and that's Mr. Mark Feener.
Yes.
Mark was our sound man for the show. And without a sound man, that doesn't happen. It can, but not at the level that you heard. We're talking about a world-class sound. Greg has worked with audio engineers, sound engineers, other producers all over the world, all over the States. He's been doing this for a lifetime, like I said. And he's told me on many occasions, he said, Mark Feener is right up there with the best he's ever worked with. So that's major props for a guy like Mark. Aside from the fact that he's skilled and knowledgeable in that stuff, he's also basically a Labrador Retriever. I mean, his temperament is just amazing. He's chill and calm all the time, even when some stuff doesn't go wrong. He's no big deal. We'll just fix that.
We are so lucky.
He's pleasant to have around. He's easy to chat with. He's an excellent guy. Sorry, Mark, if you're listening. Compare you to a dog, but hey, the Labrador Retriever.
Well, he deserves it, Ryan. He deserves that.
No,
everything he just said.
So because it's not just a show either. You hire a sound tech to do a show, and sometimes they'll come in to do an hour and a half, 2 hour show, and they're leaving, they're all like sweating and all worked up over the show. Mark stayed there for better part of 9 hours straight, 10 hours straight, without a break for the most part. He had to sneak out and grab a cigarette when he could and everything else, and hardly had any food throughout the day. Just there was like a delay. I don't know if
he had a cod bite or not, did he?
I don't know. I hope not. I tried to get all the cod bites for myself. If I see anybody going for the cod bites to try it, it gets a little smack on the wrist. But no, Mark was just phenomenal. And like I said, the fact that we went through that many performers in 7 hours with only a delay between performers of between 2 and 3 minutes, off the stage, on the stage, plugged in, quick sound check, and go. And Mark just made that roll like better than any folk festival I've ever been to, because that's the folk festival style we went with, was just plug and go. And I've never seen it done any more efficiently than what Mark did, aside
As
from
I
all the
just
other.
said, we were so lucky to have Mark there.
Yeah.
And I mean, we can thank a whole lot more people. I can thank the neighbors around Trinity Hall. I went to most of them who I could reach a couple of days before, just to warn them of all the activity that will be happening there, and maybe a little bit of loud music, and maybe a lot of more activity than they would normally have. And I tell you, they were all so supportive of everything we were doing. A couple of them said, there's space in my driveway if you need it. What would you like me to do for you? And they're all there in support. And I thought that was really, really good, because it meant so much to me, and I'm sure probably the rest of the board, to know that our neighbors around us were aware and supporting us in whatever we were doing there.
Yeah. The surprise for me too, like I try not to be, I'd like to think I'm not going to be surprised at these events. I like to think that I've pictured everything in my mind exactly how it's going to go. But when I walked into, and over on the side table, over by the piano, I noticed there was, a box of chocolates, cards, flowers, messages from people just reaching out to say congratulations. That for whatever reason, that wasn't on my radar of things to suspect what happened.
No,
and it really, for those people who sent along those things, or even the messages before and after of congratulations, whether it be Facebook or email, that stuff means a lot to me. I mean, I've been doing volunteer work my entire life. I mean, this is not boards and councils and committees, and this is not new to me in any way, shape, or form. I've been at it since high school, even before, and right through my adult years. But when the people take the time to say thank you, or to say congratulations, or to say any of that stuff, it never goes unnoticed. Because volunteers generally put in a harder day's work volunteering than they do at their actual job. And that's the truth of it, because, like you've said many times before, when it's something that you're truly, truly passionate about, it's the first thing that you think about in the morning when you wake up, and it's the last thing you think about in the evening when you're going to bed.
And you dream of it.
Yeah, and dream about it sometimes. That's true too. That's some twisted dreams too.
That's true.
But anyway, I think on that note, we've got all the thanks out. I don't think we need to thank the Foodery and Public House again, because we talked about them at length, but thank you.
and the other places also, Ryan, who
true.
cooked and prepared food for us.
Yeah.
There were several of them, all in the local area too.
Yeah.
The one in Enhanced Harbor, 2 in Heart's Content.
Yep.
All those people just prepared food for us, and we just had to, we got volunteers, go pick it up, and they did. It was amazing. The help really and the support that we received.
Yeah. So I guess that's the end of the episode. We've covered everything. There's nothing else to say. You have anything else to say?
And you know what, Ryan? We didn't plan this, right?
No.
How long did I know before it started?
10 minutes. Well, long enough for me to eat a chicken burger. Basically.
Right. Long enough for me to run to the post office and back. Yeah.
So that's the beauty of podcast. When you get the right guests on, it's a casual chat. You air your grievances and you air your happy thoughts all at the same time. And there's not much grievances at Trinity Hall these days. We've got a lot to be proud of and a lot to look forward to. So I guess on that note, I'll thank you for coming on, sharing with me and sharing with the public your take on the event and your highs and lows. There was no lows, your highs of the event.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
No, I'd say we'll see you again sometime on the Downey's Bank podcast. But for now, I'm going to say thank you very much, and thanks for sharing the bench at Downey's Bank.
Right on.